My husband and I threw a barbecue on Saturday for the whole family. Mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister-in-law times 2, brother-in-law times 4, all their kids, my parents, and a few cousins. It was a large gathering. Both sister-in-law and brother-in-law brought their dogs, times 3. I didn't really want the dogs here, but at the same time, I just kind of sucked it up because we were going to be outdoors anyways. Anyway, sister-in-law's dogs are extremely high energy and food-driven. One's a giant Rottie, and the other's some Russian Chihuahua. I think that's what she said. So, small lap dog. Brother-in-law's dog is fine. He's old and just kind of lays around looking for pettings, black lab. So we start dishing out plates or whatever, and my sister-in-law is just waiting and staring at us, but not saying anything. Then when we get everyone's food, she goes, where's their food? And points down at her 2 dogs standing by the grill, begging. I told her that I was not feeding her dog food, which cost me over $300. I purchased this food on my dime, and I'm not going to see it go to a dog when other people could want more food. She said something to the effect of, well, what the heck are they supposed to eat then? They eat with us for every meal, and now they'll just have to sit here thinking they did something wrong because you won't feed them. So I responded with all due respect, that's not my problem. You should have figured something out instead of expecting us to feed your dog steaks and burgers. Anyway, she ended up putting her food on the ground for her dogs and sat with her arms crossed the whole time, glaring at everyone around her while they were eating, saying, that sure looks yummy. Good thing the rest of the family gets to eat. My husband kept coming up and saying, just give her a plate, hon. She's causing drama. And I refused. She gave her plate to the dogs, which shouldn't have been fed the food I purchased anyhow, because I clearly said no already, and I'm not going to give in to the entitlement when she didn't do anything to contribute. If I allowed her to walk all over us this time, then it would happen over and over in the future. My mother-in-law and father-in-law are on my side, as apparently she pulls the same crap at their house, but everyone else thinks I'm an idiot for not feeding her after she gave her plate to her dogs. Edit. Brother-in-law brought his dog a can of wet food to eat while everyone else was eating. Not the idiot. She expected you to plate food for her dogs, and when you didn't, she thought she'd shame you or force you into giving her another plate? Good for you. Please prepare 3 bowls of Purina next time she comes over, and put one down in front of your sister-in-law. Wanted to make sure I remembered to feed the dogs. This is the best piece of advice I've ever read. LMAO. She is a huge idiot for feeding her dogs what she eats. Barbecue is not good for dogs. I can't believe he wanted to feed them with it. This does sound like entitlement. Actually, it just about screams entitlement. You and your whole family should do that every time sister-in-law pulls this crap. Brother-in-law manages his dog's food. Sister-in-law could really learn a thing or two from him. Geez, you did feed sister-in-law, and she could have had the food that looks so yummy. She chose to give it away. That's on her, not you. Your sister-in-law is incredibly disrespectful and so entitled. I'm a dog lover, and I know darn well you don't give the food you serve to people to dogs, which is very rude and inappropriate. From here on, do not invite your sister-in-law and brother-in-law to your home again unless both of them leave their dogs at home. Make sure your husband supports your decision. I, 28 female, have a tween son, Julian, who's pretty close with my nephew, his cousin, Parker. You can't separate them when they eat together. I live 2 blocks from my brother, his wife, and Parker. I asked my brother on Friday if Parker wanted Julian to spend the weekend at his house, since it was a long weekend. My brother said they had already made plans. I asked what plans, and maybe Parker would like Julius to tag along so he has a playmate. He said it was something for his wife. On Saturday, I found out that my brother had lied. Parker actually had a slumber party. I found out because I saw them all walking to Denny's yesterday morning. I called my brother out, and he said he didn't want my son to feel left out, so he lied. He said it didn't feel right to have an innocent younger tween around a bunch of older tween boys because they'd eat him alive. I said that was BS, and that he needed to text Julius right now and asked if he'd like to join this weekend slumber party because he'll be crushed if he found out that he was left out. He said no, so I ended up calling our mom, who lives with my brother, and explained the situation. That caused so much drama between her, my brother, and my sister-in-law, but my son got invited and declined because he's holding out to go to the aquarium. My brother was livid, and I said that if he had asked in the first place, then none of this would have happened, and there would be no drama. Info: why do you think your tween son should be invited to an older tween slumber party? Why do you think your son should spend a 3-day weekend at your brother's house? Why did you run to your mommy about an issue that did not involve her? You are the idiot. Your son acts more mature than you do. What an entitled, out-of-touch mommy's girl she is. She's going to cause big trouble for her kid. If he has a growth spurt, no doubt he'll be entitled to hang out with 16-year-olds because they're the same size. LOL. If I were the brother, I'd distance myself from her too. I feel bad for her son. The brother wants to include the son, but doesn't want to have to deal with his sister. OP, you wanted a weekend free from Julian and got mad that your brother didn't want to go along with it. You're not entitled to push your kid off on other people, nor is your brother obligated to include your son in everything he does with his kid. Also, poor sister-in-law already has your mother-in-law living with her and watching the nephew whenever his mom wants to dump the kid. OP, why didn't you invite Parker over to your place? Seriously, who calls someone and says, "Hey, I thought your kid might want my kid to come over to your house for a 3-day weekend," and then gets angry that the other kid has plans already? You can't just invite yourself over to someone else's house whenever you feel like it. Both boys are allowed to live separately and don't have to do everything together, family or not. You're being very disrespectful and bratty. I can't believe you rattled onto your mom like a baby. Maybe you're the reason why your brother wants to distance his family from yours because of your selfish and unhinged behavior and mindset. But you're a parent. Grow up and be respectful. I, 34 female, and my wife, 35, were planning to keep her brother's 40 children, male tween and female pre-tween, for this summer as her brother and sister-in-law wanted a break and time to themselves. We figured this would work out as long-term fostering had just finished for us, and we'd been considering taking a break for a little bit to regroup and focus on our relationship before we took on our next placement. However, we got an emergency placement call last night with the agency asking us if we'd be open to taking on 3 children. Out of respect for them, I will not detail ages or genders, who needed immediate placing that would likely be long-term. And after asking for an hour to discuss it, we sat down together and decided we'd do it and called back to accept. However, given this and the attention these children will need because of their situation, we've decided bringing 2 other children, not part of this sibling dynamic, into the house for a long-term stay is not wise. So my wife and I called her brother to explain this. I even suggested, as we'll be somewhat settled by then and in a routine, that if my wife wanted to take her niece and nephew somewhere for the weekend, perhaps to visit her parents, I'd be more than happy to hold down the fort with our new children, so my brother-in-law and his wife could at least get a little bit of time together. My wife liked that idea and agreed it could work out, but my brother-in-law did not like it and got upset with us both over this, as we'd promised, and it would break the kids' hearts. My wife was annoyed by this and said that it wasn't like he'd booked a vacation anyway, and he and his wife just wanted to spend some time at their home. It's not as perfect as the whole summer, but surely it's better than nothing. My brother-in-law then threw in our faces that his children were blood-related, and yet we were taking in strangers' children over his. But brother-in-law and his wife both work from home, so we aren't leaving kids alone with having to be at work with no one to watch the children. My wife has a temper when our fosters are insulted, and she began to curse him out at this. I took the phone off the speaker at this point to let her calm down. I told him if he felt that way, we'd be unable to watch his children at all for the foreseeable future. And while we loved our niece and nephew, we also loved all the children in our care. And until he realized that and apologized, he'd not get to take advantage of our child care. I also may have told him I hoped his children never needed to be in a placement like the ones we'll be caring for. Low blow, I know, but my wife wasn't the only one annoyed. Since then, some of my wife's family has been hounding us over this and how it's unfair of us to let down the children. While I was her wife, I had no right to take over the phone call at the end and make that decision alone. We've since stopped answering all calls from them for now. Maybe it was wrong to take over the call and to cancel plans we'd promised already. I don't care much about upsetting him, but I feel guilty for my nephew and niece as we broke a promise made. Hey, do you want us to take niece and nephew for 2 months? Yeah, they'd love that. Oh, just kidding, but later in the summer, we can do a weekend. So that's almost the same, right? And you say it doesn't cause an issue because the kids can entertain themselves while the parents work from home? How often do emergency placements come up in foster care? Like, was it really likely you'd go the whole summer without being called? What was the plan if you were called for an emergency placement once the kids were already with you? They aren't entitled to 3 months of free care. You offered. This meant they didn't look into other summer camp options or whatever for niece and nephew. And your solution is they can play all summer while their parents are working because they work from home. OP, you are the idiot. Of course niece and nephew are going to be upset, but ultimately, they're not in danger like these new kids. My feelings would be different if the parents needed help because someone was sick and they needed recovery time, but that's not the case. The kids just missed a summer camp. The kids are in no danger. The same can't be said for the emergency foster placement. Not the idiot. Yes, but they made a promise to kids and then broke it. That's the idiot move. It has nothing to do with the parents, in my opinion. It's about how now these kids won't trust their aunt and uncle because they offered to do something with them and then backed out. Kids don't understand all the nuances. Yes, it is so unfair that the children with a stable home life that includes both parents and a supportive extended family structure miss out on being pawned off onto relatives for an extended period because their parents need a break. Yeah, screw them. You know you and your wife can provide a safe, caring environment. Unfortunately, not enough of that exists in the foster system. You're doing the right thing. You are not the idiot. My half-sister's mother is my dad's widow. They were married until his death a decade ago, but I was never close to her and had no contact with her in the years since my dad's death, and I only had minimal contact with her in the years before he died after I left their house. Some of the big points of contention were money. Most of the money my parents had, in theory, was my mom's before marriage and was considered a premarital asset, which she left entirely to me in a bank account that only her parents had access to until I turned 18. The money from the marriage was entirely my dad's, and he got the house and stuff in her name. But the money I had was a large sum, and sometimes we struggled, and I didn't want it used. I also didn't want to use that money to help cover the costs when my dad's wife had breast cancer to pay for treatment so they'd have no debt. Another thing was, she hated that I called her by her first name, never mom, never mama, or some form of a mom nickname. This was part of what made Dad and I so estranged as well. He was fully on board with me giving her a mom nickname. There was a lot of crap too when my half-sister was born, and I had more extended family because my mom came from a close family and my dad did not, and neither did his wife. I was in low contact for about 5 years before my dad died. No contact with his wife after. My half-sister and I have always had a strained enough relationship. She didn't like my lack of attachment to her mom and was on the team. Give my mom a mom nickname because she's your mom now too. So she was telling me recently that her mom is sick and needs care, and it's expensive care. She felt we should split the cost, and I owed her mom that much, and I owed her as a sister. I told her I won't be splitting the cost, and I wasn't responsible for helping with her mother's care. That she is her mother's child, her only child, and that means it's on her. She told me I was so cold to the woman who was my mother for 10 years of my childhood. She also told me I could do it for her, as her sister, as a sister who was never the best, and could make up for some of that now. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Keep your money. If your dad got the marital home after your mom passed, I presume it went to your stepmom after your dad died. She can sell it if she needs to pay medical bills. You can bet the house has been left to her only daughter, so look after your own interest in this. She just wants your money. She doesn't care about you. You were deservedly cold to this person who stole the money your late mother left you that should have been invested in your future. You don't owe them anything. Their BS has cost you enough. She got the house and your dad's money. If that's not enough, their financial planning is to blame, not you. I live in a gated community, and visitors must always check in with the office to receive a guest parking pass. They also must park in the designated parking lot made for guests only. Late last night, I got home around 2 a.m. and saw a car parked in my spot. I didn't know whose car it was, nor who was parked there. The parking pass showed an apartment number, but I couldn't even find the apartment building or number since the complex is massive. I was also exhausted to even walk into every building and every floor to find the unit. I couldn't just type in the address on Google Maps since it would just show up as the leasing office. I also couldn't park in the guest spot since I didn't have a ticket to enter, and the office closed at 12 a.m. I didn't have anywhere to park my car, so as a last resort, I called the tow truck company to get the car removed. This morning, I got ready to head out to work and was greeted by the driver, who parked their car in my spot, standing next to my car. She got upset and told me that I should have let her know to move her car and claimed that I had to pay for the towing fee. She then took a picture of my plate and walked away. Am I the idiot for not letting the driver know to move their car before calling the tow company? Not the idiot. What were you supposed to do? Go on a pilgrimage at 2 a.m. to find this person amongst the hundreds of units in your complex? Don't want to get towed? Then don't park somewhere that's illegal to park. You play stupid games and you win stupid prizes. My buddy lived in a place like yours. Everyone was informed where to park. However, on a regular basis, visitors complained when their cars were towed. Management had the same answer every time. Park in your designated area or be towed. I guess she has a nice fine to pay for her car. Oh well. Hope you can do her this favor again. LOL. I tow people who block my driveway in New Orleans literally once a month. Everyone who comes to confront me is an Airbnb guest who also demands I pay their towing fee. I tell them to screw off and hope they had a great trip. The audacity. I hope you have a kickback arrangement with a good tow company. Also, I'd call the management office to let them know what happened. Illegal parkers deserve zero tolerance.